This is Alex Lowes making his return from a left ankle injury that cost him the 2 Sunday races at the UK round. Did try to ride in the warm-up there, but ultimately withdrew. And that was a real shame because he qualified on the front row, led 2 laps of race 1 before his crash. And if he's fit enough here, then this could be a track that suits the Bimota. No long straight here and a lot of first gear corners.
Yeah, the one problem for Bimota is 14th and 15th on the timesheets this morning and only 0.003 of a second between Bassani and Lowes. So that looked like it was as much as they could get out of the bike this morning. But a Superpole session is always different. It depends on who you're able to follow and what you're able to do during this 15-minute session.
Yeah, big impact, particularly obviously the bike. You can see barrel rolling and breaking up, but good to have Alex Lowes straight back to his feet literally for this weekend.
Yeah, and for Lowes, the disappointment was that there was the chance for that really good result in race 1, and then it also meant that he couldn't take part in race 2 in Sunday afternoon. So ended up where it was a tough home round for him, but the speed was there, and that's going to give him a lot of encouragement.
Yeah, missed, of course, the Superpole race where he really would have fancied his chances of, at very least, a podium finish. Elsewhere, news up and down the grid. Taz McKenzie returns to World SBK. He sat out the UK round, comes in now to replace Scott Redding, and Redding's departure back to the British Championship. It's a big loss for World SBK. 40 podiums for Redding, including 12 wins in 2020 and 2021. Medal rankings in each season for Redding, but it's a big opportunity for McKenzie after leaving the uncompetitive MIE Honda bike. He now gets onto the Bonovo Ducati, and this is his best chance to show what he's capable of at this level. Yeah,
and I think for Taz, a good opportunity, and what we saw from Redding over the course of much of the season was qualifying on that 6th row of the grid. So if McKenzie's able to put it up inside the top 18, he's been able to do more or less what we saw from Redding for much of the season, and that'll be a good starting point, and then he needs to kick on for the rest of the year.
Disappointing weekend last time out for Honda. Donington Park has not been generally one of their happiest hunting grounds. They'll be glad that they've put that one behind them, but Iker Lecuona in particular has started strongly in terms of his free practice results. This is Remy Gardner, revealed on Thursday his new 2-year deal with Yamaha Motor Europe that will keep him with GRT in World SBK. Gardner, a top 10 finisher in each of the last 2 championships since moving from MotoGP, twice a podium finisher at the Dutch round, and currently sits 11th in the 2025 standings. Comments in the announcement from Nicolo Canepa, very complimentary about his feedback to the engineers and the way he works with the team.
Yeah, I think that what we've seen over the course of this year is a little bit of maturity on the Superbike for Remy, and obviously the Yamaha isn't the easiest bike to get the best performances out of, but it is a bike capable of good performances, and we've seen that with Andrea Locatelli, all of his top 5, top 6 finishes, winning a race, battling it out for 3rd in the World Championship, and being able to have some very solid performances. So the bike and package is possible to get those good results, and another 2 years for Remy and a good opportunity for him.
Superpole session underway, riders making their way round. What have we learnt so far about this Balaton Park circuit and how to hook it up over a single lap in Superpole?
We've learned that everyone underestimated this place because it's much more of a challenging circuit than I think most people gave it credit for. Speaking to the riders yesterday, and they all said the same thing, that it's a lot more technical than you think, and a lot easier to make mistakes, and that was definitely the story of yesterday, running deep into the chicanes at the likes of turn 15 and different places like that.
For the record, fastest time of the weekend so far, 1 minute 38.747 for Sam Lowes in free practice 3 earlier on today. There were qualifying simulations in that session, so we have a good idea of the kind of benchmark the riders will be looking for here.
Yeah, the one thing as well, we've had rain in the air through the course of this morning. A few little spots of rain shouldn't be an issue during the Superpole session, but we have seen it in the last hour, and we'll wait and see how that impacts on things over the course of the session. It looks like it'll be more of an issue tomorrow. The weather forecast for tomorrow is pretty changeable, and by the time we get to the Superpole race, that could well be wet track.
Riders through the first sector then, starting to complete sector 2. We saw initially Iker Lecuona heading up the group and trying to get some clear air and daylight in front of him to set a hot lap and a banker lap in the first stint of this Superpole session. This is Toprak Razgatlioglu. He and Nicolo Bulliger separated by less than 1/4 of a second in Superpole at the last 3 rounds, and should on paper start as the favourites again here. Toprak, the current Superpole award leader as a result of Bulliger's 2 Superpole race race retirements. And Razgatlioglu on pole at 2 of the last 3 rounds. Increasingly, it is Toprak with the upper hand this season.
Toprak just is getting the most out of that package. BMW's done a really good job to be able to find improvements with it, to put him into the right window. And now in the Superpole sessions, he's been able to find that little bit of a step.
First lap times coming in then. Ikalekuona with a 1:39.206. Toprak Razgatlioglu half a second faster than that after 3 completed sectors. It is a 1:38.459 for Toprak Razgatlioglu. First flying lap of Superpole for Toprak, and it is the fastest time of the weekend so far.
Yeah, an important one there for Toprak. And Lekuona puts in a decent lap, 39.2. It is going to be in the 38s. We saw that this morning. Sam Lowe's with 38.7. So he'll be able to get his lap time in next, and we'll see what kind of speed he has. But definitely for Toprak, that's what you need to do. Go out there straight away, put in the fastest lap of the weekend.
Andrea Locatelli moving up into 2nd position, best part of half a second down on Razgatlioglu's time, and that's Xavi Vierge coming to grief in the gravel trap. So there'll be a yellow flag out at turn 1 for the riders making their way through.
Yeah, and that's a crash we've seen a little bit through the course this weekend. The asphalt through there is quite tricky for the riders, and we've seen a few times where we've had that low side through turn 1.
Sam Lowe's 0.4 of a second down after 3 completed sectors. He's in line to move on to the front row of the grid. Doesn't look as though this one's going to be good enough to challenge Toprak Razgatlioglu, who's up again on his subsequent lap, but it is good enough to put Sam onto the front row of the grid as things stand. So it's Razgatlioglu, Locatelli, and now Sam Lowe's in 3rd. Danilo Petrucci 4th ahead of Nicolo Bulliger and Ikalekuona. Provisionally row 3, Xavi Vierge, Alvaro Bautista and Andrea Iannone.
Yeah, and you can see there the yellow flags are gone in turn 1 as well. Xavi Vierge was able to get himself rejoined, so all these riders shouldn't be impacted by that on their 2nd lap.
Jonathan Ray 10th position on his first flying lap, now making his way around on his 2nd as Toprak Razgatlioglu goes a 10th of a second faster than he went before in sector 2. He's still up by a 10th after sector 3. Razgatlioglu already a pole sitter at 13 different World SBK venues and chasing this inaugural pole here at Balaton Park. It's a 1:38.369, and Toprak does manage to find another 10th of a second.
Yeah, and for Razgatlioglu, half a second clear of Andrea Locatelli now, and Sam Lowe's on a better lap in his 2nd lap of the session.
Alex Lowe's just crossing the line to move into P8, new personal best for him. That demotes Jonathan Ray down to 11th position. Alex Lowe's up ahead of Alvaro Bautista as well. P9 now for Bautista.
I spoke to a few riders about the Q tyre as well, and they said that after 2 laps it was starting to drop off a little bit. So we'll see how many riders are able to get that 3rd lap on a qualifying tyre.
Well, Andrea Iannone is going for it at the moment. He sits in 10th position and hoping to climb from there. We're watching Sam Lowe's, and Sam is half a second down after 3 completed sectors, so it doesn't look as though he's going to be able to improve with this latest effort. And Toprak Razgatlioglu over half a second clear in this first stint as things stand. Bautista and Iannone in line to improve. At the moment, they're 9th and 10th in this session, and Alvaro Bautista, who hasn't even made the front 3 rows of the grid at the last 3 rounds. He was P10 in Superpole at Donington, although if he had found a 10th of a second there, it would have been enough to move him up into 6th position. He crosses the line. It's a 1:39.266, and you kind of feel with Bautista that a small improvement for him in Superpole could have a big impact on the weekend as a whole.
Yeah, and Bulliger's the rider that we'll need to keep an eye on for that 2nd stint as well. He's down there in P5 right now, 3/4 of a second off Toprak, and we haven't seen a gap like that between those 2 riders through this season.
Must be said that here at Balaton Park, Superpole could be particularly pivotal. It's not a wide circuit, it doesn't have high-speed corners, it doesn't have long straights, so it's going to be tougher here to make overtakes than perhaps at some of our other venues.
Yeah, it will, and that's one thing that a lot of riders have said, is that when they came here and they looked at the track map, they thought there would be a lot of overtaking chances. They'd say now that maybe turn 5, turn 15, and then try and force a few moves elsewhere. A little bit earlier in the corner there for Xavi Vierge having that crash, and there were some riders saying about the asphalt through that part of the track being a little bit tricky, so maybe just caught him out on his quali lap.
Yeah, good news for him is that his first banker lap puts him up in P9, and generally that's better than he goes in Superpole, isn't it? Vierge, not usually the best of qualifiers, was 19th on the grid at the UK round, his worst Superpole to date in World SBK. So Xavi Vierge up in 9th as things stand. Obviously he's back in the pits now, so he'll be hoping to get back out in the closing minutes of this session. Opening stint completed then. It's Toprak Razgatlioglu who leads the way by over half a second ahead of Andrea Locatelli. Sam Lowe's currently 3rd, Petrucci, Bulliger, Lekuona row 2, Bautista, Iannone, Vierge row 3. Couple of surprises there. Locatelli up in P2, that would be a brilliant result if he can hold on to that. And Bulliger only on the second row of the grid as things stand.
Yeah, and certainly for Bulliger it is about trying to find that step. Lecuona's done a good job to put himself up there in the second row right now. And Locatelli, obviously, that we see here with his crew chief, Tom O'Kane. P2, really good effort there in his first run.
Yes, Andrea Locatelli, consistent qualifier as always, has only once been out of the top 10 this season, but an average of P7, was 6th on the grid at Donington Park 2 weeks ago. His best Superpole result since Assen. He was 4th on the grid in Portimao, 6th at the Dutch round. His best results to date, 2 second places in Superpole. He's never yet been a pole sitter and only 4 front rows, so would be quite some achievement if he can stay on the front row of the grid for race 1.
Yeah, and for Locke, we've seen it over the course of this season. There were those couple of rounds where he struggled after his Assen win, but overall for the season, he's been able to do a very solid job. 5th in the World Championship and been good value for that this year.
Second stint about to get underway, and again, Iker Lecuona keen to be among the first riders to make his way, by the looks of things, down pit lane. So a couple of riders just on their pit exit now.
Yeah, and for Iker, 0.8 of a second off on that first run, and Toprak just leaving the pits now. Let's see who's immediately going to try and jump out to be with Razgatlioglu as well. And you can see Van der Mark, his teammate, there out with him. And we'll see if that's able to give Mikey a chance to move a little bit further up the grid.
Toprak Razgatlioglu, who equalled Carl Fogarty's career tally of 21 poles last time out, placing him joint 5th in World SBK's all-time rankings. Toprak's 3rd pole of the season, with which he equalled Nicolo Bulliger. And neither rider has qualified off the front row at any round this season, but we could be in for a surprise here this morning with Nicolo Bulliger currently sitting in P5.
Yeah, and for Bulliger, when we look at the times, well, obviously Toprak setting the pace, he's also setting the pace in each individual sector. And when you look at it, 1/4 of a second in that first sector, 1/4 of a second in the second sector, 2/10 in the third sector, and then 1/10 of a second in the final sector. So Bulliger needs to find time everywhere.
Yeah, Bulliger, who has statistically been World SBK's best qualifier this season. 3 poles, 4 second places, and only beaten by less than 1/10 in Most, just over 1/10 at Donington. 8 consecutive front row starts to his name, stretching back to Jerez last year. Could see that run ended here unless he can improve in the final 5 minutes of Superpole, as we pick up Iker Lecuona, currently 6th on the grid. He was 5th on the grid at the Czech round, but otherwise you'd have to say that's generally been an outlier. 9th his best at the other 5 rounds. He was 12th in Misano, 13th on the grid at Donington Park a fortnight ago, hoping to bring the Honda back towards the front in this Superpole session. With 4 minutes to go, he embarks on his first flying lap of this final stint.
Yeah, and it's good from the Hondas as well. 2nd and 3rd row of the grid, 6th and 9th after that first run. Obviously, Javi Vieira had that crash as well. He's now left the pit, so no major issues for him and no real damage done to his bike. And 4 minutes left in the session. This is whenever we'll start to see what everyone's able to do. 29.4, the fastest time in the first sector. So we'll see what Iker can do, and he really is pushing hard through that long left-hander at the start of the lap.
Yes, as you say, every rider now out on the track. Alvaro Bautista was hanging back slightly, but he has joined the fray as well, as Iker Lecuona completes his first sector, and looking good after it as well. Less than 1/10 of a second down on Toprak Razgatlioglu's fastest time, and that's an expected P3 as things stand for him.
Yeah, Iker through that long turn 3 looked really confident in what he was able to do with the bike. Oh, and that's Tito Rabat, it looks like.
Big spill as well, and the bike is completely destroyed with a yellow flag out in the gravel trap there.
If the red flag doesn't come out, this is the grid. It's only Iker Lecuona that can improve his time. That bike will take a bit of time to get cleaned up from in there. Big crash.
Toprak Razgatlioglu was 1/4 of a second up after the opening sector. We could have been looking at a time in the 1 minute 37s. 3 minutes to go in Superpole. We wait to see when those yellow flags will be withdrawn, when the operation can begin to clean up there, and hopefully news on the rider after the spill as well. We're watching Iker Lecuona. He was the man who had cleared it.
And traffic in front of him, and the red flag is out. That's the reason for it.
So the red flag was going to force the stoppage of that lap anyway for Iker Lecuona.
Marshall's running there as well, and it looked like it was one of the Bemodas coming through that part of the track as well in front of Iker Lecuona, but we'll wait and see what the situation is there.
Yeah, the yellow flags were out there as well, which I think was the reason perhaps that Lecuona was throwing his hands up in frustration at the first place. And I wonder whether that might have been a spill for Alex Lowe's there later on in the lap that's just caught out Lecuona. I'm not sure entirely. We'll try and piece all of that back together in a couple of moments. I've got a red flag out for the moment at least.
Yeah, and the red flag is well, at the end of the day, whenever you were going to lose all that time at the end of the session clearing up the Rabat bike, it would have ended any chance for anyone else to improve their times. So at least now everyone will have that dash at the end to try and give themselves a chance to improve. Yes,
everyone's going to have to be quite efficient getting out of pit lane, though, assuming we do get the restart with the 2 minutes 43. Fastest lap in this session is 1:38.369, so the 23rd bike out onto the track is going to have a hard task, find themselves a bit of space.
Yeah, and 22nd bike, Tito Rabat's not going to be coming back into this session.
Sorry,
but,
good point.
For Tito, that was a big crash, and you could see the impact for the bike, but Tito needed to be helped away there as well. And just look at the background of the shot, and maybe Tito just got caught up a little bit by the bike there as well, but the bike just gets ripped apart. So much energy in a big crash like that. And unfortunate for Tito. He's actually done a good job in his first lap. He's currently on the 6th row of the grid.
Yeah, Rabat 18th position, as you say. Main thing is that he's up to his feet, because a big spill like that one, particularly inevitably when you see the bike spectacularly destroying itself like that, much as Alex Lowe's in Donington Park last time out, your eye is drawn to the bike, obviously. But for Rabat, good to see him up and able to walk away from that.
Yeah, exactly. And for Tito, we'll obviously see him in action this afternoon, but we won't see him back in this session. But 2.5 minutes left, 2:43 left in the session means that there is plenty of time really to get out on track at the end of this session. You've got probably 40 seconds to get out to the end of pit lane.
Yes, and to find yourself a little bit of space. Obviously, at the moment, it's debris on the circuit. We saw the images of that and the bike that needs to be cleared away. But you would think it's not too long before we should be able to get back up and running with this Superpole session.
Yeah, just sweep up the gravel and clear things up, and hopefully we're not too long until we're able to get going again. We've seen a few red flags during the course of the running yesterday, and there were no big delays for it, so the marshals have been working pretty efficiently.
Yes, news as soon as we've got it. Obviously, we'll expect Tito Rabat now to go to the medical centre for a checkup after what was a big spill there for him. Does manage to get back up to his feet and make his way away from the track. And here is the track cleaning operation that's being undertaken. That's obviously where the bike has destroyed itself, basically, in the gravel trap that's flicked a load of gravel up onto the circuit as well. So that's got to be cleared for safe conditions to enable us to resume. And look at that. What an unusual sight. The bike being pieced back together effectively by the marshals there, who are doing a diligent job as ever.
You do have to be careful when you're lifting that as well. Brakes are obviously going to be hot, and tyres as well. So the marshals just getting everything cleaned up. And you can see down pit lane there, Chan On-Chu just strolling down as well. And On-Chu, of course, ready for the Supersport race this afternoon. But he'll go in to see Top Rack as well at this stage, and that's the damage that was done to Alex Lowe's ladder. So he did come down at the chicane at the end of the lap.
Yeah, so you'd assume he comes down at the right hand at turn 15, because the scuff marks are on the right hand side. And we've obviously not seen the incident itself, but this is him picking the bike back up. So you would assume that Iker Lecuona will have seen a yellow flag for that, and that was the cause of his frustration, but ultimately he wouldn't have got the lap in anyway, because we had red flags immediately straight after.
Yeah, and also, like, you can't get yourself too frustrated about riders having an instant during a session and a yellow flag being out. It's one thing if a rider's cruising around, but crashes can happen, and you're trying to build yourself up. For Lowe's, he's building himself up into his fast lap for the Superpole session.
And what are riders doing about tyre now when they go back out? We're going to be on a used Q tyre, I would assume, for all of them pretty much.
Yeah, you wouldn't have another Q tyre, or you wouldn't have the stickers left on it for it. So you'll go out there and probably the tyre that you just used and try and just make it work.
Yeah, we do know that when the tyre warms up, cools down and then warms up again, that can sometimes be a challenge. So we'll wait and see how that pans out. Would be good to see a shootout in the final 3 minutes of Superpole. We'll get back underway as soon as possible. Obviously, the track cleaning operation being undertaken for the moment. A reminder of your positions as things stand at the stoppage. It's Toprak Razgatlioglu leading us by half a second over Andrea Locatelli. This man, Sam Lowe, sits in third, and frankly, that's the furthest he's been from top spot, Toprak all weekend. Sam having topped the timesheets in Free Practice 2 and FP3. And certainly a pole position contender, 6th in the championship, remember, Sam Lowe's, but 3rd in the 2025 Superpole Award. He is the only rider other than Razgatlioglu and Bulliger who has qualified on pole this year. He topped Superpole at the Dutch round.
Yeah, on his fast lap, Sam was about 0.4 of a second off Top Rack in Sector 1. So giving it all up in that first sector on that lap. on the lap with the red flag, he had gone faster in the first sector. So there is plenty of room for improvement there for him.
Yeah, the problem is that there was still room for improvement for Toprak, wasn't there? Because he was up a quarter of a second after the opening sector on his latest lap. So Toprak, Razgatlioglu, the others might be able to improve, but you feel that Toprak still got a bit in hand, and that's very impressive because FP2, FP3, as you said, he didn't look entirely convincing, and we had a little bit of histrionics with the arms thrown up in frustration. He couldn't get the bike to stop how he wanted, but in Superpole it looks as though he's got everything together for race day.
Yeah, exactly, and giving himself the chance as you'd expect from Razgatlioglu.
This is Ika Lekwona. For him, he felt that a missed opportunity to improve on his lap time there. He was at the front of the group and obviously the only rider in front of Tito Rabat and his crash. So if we'd been able to continue, it would have been a different scenario. Under red flags at the moment. And this is what happened for the rest of the lap for Ika Lekwona. Tear off, thrown asunder in frustration. Arms up in frustration as well. Alex Lowe's having come to grief, but ultimately it made little impact on the session for him. And Lekwona coming back to the pits, currently sits in 6th place. Razgatlioglu, Locatelli, Sam Lowe's, Petrucci, Bulliger, Lekwona is currently 6th. Bautista, Iannone and Vierke in P9. Riders to watch out for then in the remainder of this session. Garrett Gerloff down in 13th place at the moment. Might hope for a little bit more after 3 consecutive strong rounds with top 10 finishes for the Texan. We've got Jari Montella down in 15th place at the moment. Dominic Egerter 16th. We certainly saw more than that from him last time out at Donington Park, and it's been a solid enough start to this weekend as well. Michael Vandermark, 19th place. Yeah, I had to take a second look there because I could hardly believe it. He's never been the best of Superpole performers, Vandermark, but could do with a significant improvement here. And then Axel Bassani down in 20th, last of the big names and big bikes, as it were. The Bimota official rider, with Alex Lowe's up in 10th position, having found something extra in this Superpole session. It's now up to Axel Bassani to try and do the same. This is Danilo Petrucci, 3rd in the championship for him this season, but an average just 7th on the grid. And Superpole has certainly been a weakness for Petrucci. Qualified down the order in Cremona. P9 on the grid at each of the last 2 rounds. And Petrucci looking set to bounce back here. He currently sits in P4 as we see Remy Gardner. P12 for him at the moment. And again, another rider who will feel there's a little bit of ground to be gained in the remainder of this session. But at least looking better than he did last time out at Donington Park. Qualified down in P16 at the UK round 2 weeks ago, matching his worst Superpole result actually since the 2023 UK round. And the first time he's been out of the top 10 this season. Generally, Remy Gardner's been involved in that battle for a place on the second row of the grids.
Yeah, for Remy, obviously 12th fastest right now. When you look at what Locatelli's able to do, it's a big margin for him to make up. But around here, it's only a couple of tenths of a second. If you make a few tenths, you move up a couple of rows of the grid, and that'll be the target for Remy whenever we get back underway in 2.5 minutes.
Yes, as you say, pit lane due to open. You can see the clock at the top of your screen, and that's good news. We get underway with the session again, and another opportunity for everyone to try and improve on their times. It's going to be a frantic sprint, quite literally, and it's going to be one hot lap. It's going to be one-shot qualifying here at Balaton Park.
Yeah, a little bit of classic Superpole style for all these riders to give themselves that pressure-filled atmosphere and try and make that one lap. Iannone, that we can see here, was actually on course for a good lap before the red flags came out as well. So we'll see what Andrea is able to do. He's been able to be a lot happier with himself this weekend than what we saw at Donington in particular in some of the recent rounds. So hopefully for Iannone, a good opportunity here. Yeah, that's fair comments. He's looked better in free practice, hasn't he, Andrea Iannone? He's had just one front row start in 2025. That was back in Phillip Island. Compared to the 5 front row starts he managed last season, it has been a much tougher 2025 campaign for him. And actually only once even on the second row of the grid since Phillip Island. He was 14th in Superpole last time out at Donington Park. So as we've said, a real opportunity for him to bounce back. Yeah, and that's where in Cremona we saw his racecraft to be able to hold everyone at bay, despite, I think he qualified on the 6th row there. So it's one of those situations where he's been able to show that there is still something there for Iannone where he can get those good results, but he needs to qualify well. And that's the story up and down the grid for so many riders, trying to put yourself in that position during the course of this 15-minute session.
Garrett Gerloff, the 6th highest scorer at the UK round, 3 top 8 finishes and 20 points, comfortably his best of the season so far. And as I touched on earlier on, from Most onwards really, he's made a clear step forward. 5 top 10 finishes at the last 3 rounds. Has had only 1 top 10 Superpole effort in 2025, averaging P15. So could do with a better Superpole result here. He currently sits in P13.
Yeah, and I think for Garrett, what we saw last time out obviously was the kind of form that we want to see from the Kawasaki rider, and definitely he needs to make sure he's able to do something where he's able to qualify up on those front 4 rows of the grid. And for Garrett, it's just about trying to find only a few hundredths of a second between himself and Remy Gardner. It's one of those really closely fought qualifying sessions now for all these riders. I did Ian O'Neill a big disservice there for Cremona. Obviously, he was able to. That was the other time he was on the 2nd row. But for him, it's that thing of trying to find that ability to give yourself a good qualifying performance, because everything in Superbikes is conditioned by what you do in the Superpole session.
Yes, it wasn't row 6, it was P6.
P6.
You weren't far off.
There we go.
Axel Bassani, just in that group there, we saw him making his way down pit lane. Look at everyone bunching and bumping and boring practically to get a bit of free space as they make their way out of pit lane and onto the circuit. That's because they've basically got a normal lap time plus 40 seconds to get round and start a lap, and then they'll have a real opportunity and a good crack of the whip at the end of this session. Yeah,
but they're really looking at it as well as, I don't want to have anyone around me. I want to be clear and be able to have that track to myself to be able to set the time. And that's where it's interesting that someone like Andrea Locatelli has left a little bit later than everyone. We can't see Locke in this group. He's in the next group out, so he'll be out there with Remy Gardner and another couple of riders as well.
Yes, I can tell you that everyone other than Tito Rabat has made their way out onto the circuit, so that means that Alex Lowe's has managed to get out onto the circuit, which is not a surprise. We saw the team pretty much finished with the repairs works, taking advantage of that red flag, but a bit of a joker there for Alex Lowe's, because obviously he had gone down at the time of the stoppage.
Yeah, and it's one of those situations of now trying to give yourself that chance. Obviously no real damage done to his bike and able to get back out there. What's interesting when you look at this group, obviously Sam on the front of this group in the number 14 Ducati looks like he's trying to break away from everyone. You're trying to split the group a little bit. Michael van der Mark's gone with Iker Lekwona and Sam Lowe's. This is a good opportunity for van der Mark.
Yes, Yannone fracturing that group behind as well, just moving wide and then easing up and bringing himself back onto the racing line. So I think he's got perhaps Nicolo Bulliger with him. We'll see. Yes, Nicolo Bulliger in front has got it in front of him. Bautista's not too far adrift of Toprak Razgatlioglu. It's quite an unusual, almost race style, with 1 minute to go before the checkered flag falls here in Superpole, and we're up and running with the final stint, and it's going to be one-shot qualifying here at Balaton Park.
29.2, the fastest time we've seen in the first sector. That was Toprak with the red flagged lap, and you can see already a gaggle of riders running in too deep into turn 1. Bautista struggled to get the bike stopped into there all weekend.
Yeah, Bassani was among those who went deepest through there, so that might cost him time, and he's one of the riders who needs to make the biggest improvement. He's down in 20th position as things stand. Always very difficult to predict for Axel Bassani. First sector times coming in then. Toprak a 1/10 of a second up. Sam Lowe's a 1/10 of a second up. Nicolo Bulliger 1.5 tenths of a second up, and that could be crucial. Bautista a 10th down. Yannone is down, and that's Alex Lowe's down on the deck once again. So yellow flag for Lowe's at turn 1, and that's going to end his hopes of making an improvement from P10, and he's at risk from the group of riders behind, particularly the Yamahas, the likes of Jonathan Ray, Remy Gardner and Dominic Egerter.
Yeah, and you can see here for Sam just coming around still just through that second sector now. He's lost ground to Toprak in sector 2.
Nicolo Bulliger's lost half a second in that second sector. Our pole sitter in Phillip Island, Cremona and Misano doesn't look as though he's going to be the first rider to reach 4 poles in 2025. It's Toprak Razgatlioglu who leads the way by over half a second. He looks as though he's caught traffic though with Yannone in front of him. We'll see if he's able to improve this lap. It's a 1:38.369 as things stand. Sam Lowe's is expected second after 3 completed sectors. Can he make up any ground in the final sector? Lowe's goes in front of Locatelli. It's a 1:38.834. Toprak Razgatlioglu drives for the line, and it is a new fastest lap of this Superpole session. A 1:38.357, and it's provisional pole for Toprak Razgatlioglu. Half a second almost clear of Sam Sam Lowe's. Locatelli crosses the line. He remains in third. Nicolo Bulliger improves, but not enough to put him on the front row of the grid. So his run of consecutive front row starts is brought to an end. Petrucci and Lecuona round out row 2. Bautista 7th, so an improvement after struggles in the last few rounds in Superpole for him. Iannone and Vierge completing row 3. Jonathan Ray improves his time but remains in P10. Remy Gardner up to 11th on that final lap, good enough to pip Alex Lowe's. So Lowe's pair of crashes drop him down to 12th, but the damage could obviously have been worse than that.
Yeah, and that'd be a shame for Alex, obviously his teammate as well, Axel Bassani down there on 20th position as well. So tough session for the Momotas. We can see the Hondas in the middle of this group as well, and a good session for the Hondas. Team HRC has Iker Lecuona on the second row of the grid, Javi Vieira on the third row of the grid. So the Honda's working well and well placed for the races this weekend. Alvaro Bautista's done a better job than what we've seen at times in recent rounds. He's on the third row of the grid in P7. Tyre life won't be a concern for anyone, so that strength for Bautista may not be as much of a factor here as it was in other rounds. This is the crash for Alex Lowe's, and just what we've seen a few times at turn 1 for riders this weekend, just where it just comes around on you. So it is one of those places that are a little bit trickier. The asphalt has been a little bit more of an issue through there than in some of the other places around the track.
And clearly this is a venue where BMotor are struggling at the moment. You've pointed it out there, but the fact is that his teammate Axel Bassani completes his lap, loses half a second in the first sector, another half a second basically in each sector, and ends up down in 20th position. So for whatever reason, it's a shame, because in advance of the weekend everyone was saying, well, this should be an opportunity for BMotor, but for whatever reason it hasn't panned out that way. Toprak Razgatlioglu takes P1, but I said at the top of this show, the risk for Nicolo Bulliger is that in this unusual circuit and after a tough start to the weekend, he could find himself battling not with Toprak, but with the likes of Sam Lowe's, and Andrea Locatelli's qualified in front of him as well. So Bulliger relegated to P4, his worst Superpole of the season.
Yeah, and I think that that's the indication of the challenge he's facing this weekend, is that whether it's for one reason or the other, he just struggled yesterday to get the bike stopped. Did a good job on this qualifying lap, but wasn't able to quite put it all together. And for Bulliger, second row of the grid, if that's your bad day, it's still okay. But we also know that Toprak doesn't tend to have too many bad days, so he needs to make a quick start. He needs to be aggressive off the line. But you're up against the likes of Locatelli, who on the Yamaha we know will make a quick start. Lockett could easily hole shot into turn 1.
Yes, Andrea Locatelli off the front row of the grid. First front row start since Portimao 2023 for Andrea Locatelli. They don't come along all that often for Yamaha. Locatelli, consistent qualifier. But that was a really good lap time from him and keeps it clean. So third position for Andrea Locatelli. I said it earlier on, but not many riders have out-qualified Nicolo Bulliger this season. Yeah,
Bulliger, we've seen over the 2 years he's been on the Superbike just how strong he is over a single lap. But he looked like he had to hassle the bike and harry the bike around here. That's not always when we see him at his fastest. And for Bulliger, he should still be able to be a contender during the races. But the biggest challenge is with the harder tyre allocation here this weekend, we're not going to have it where you're using up too much of that tyre. So the advantages that we see for some riders probably gets negated a little bit, and it's about taking your opportunities when they present themselves.
It's only the fourth time in 20 rounds in World SBK for Nicolo Bulliger that he's qualified off the front row of the grid, so real rarity for him. He's not far off the front row though, is he? He's in fourth position, so he is there and in the mix, but we think about the time it took him on those opening laps when he was making poor starts at Donington Park to weave his way back into second, and that by the time he got there, Toprak Razgatlioglu was away and gone. And Toprak, having qualified half a second faster than anyone else in Superpole, is going to be optimistic of bolting in those early laps in race 1.
Yeah, and that's obviously the confidence that comes for Toprak anyway. But here in particular, he knows if he makes the start, he's going to be very tricky to overtake. We also have seen that he's just got the bike working now. And yesterday took a little bit of time to get into that window, but BMW, as ever, just making the progress for Toprak when they need to.
Yes, Toprak Razgatlioglu giving acknowledgement of those Turkish flags with a wave. He is the man on top in your Superpole session. Also means that he will start the World SBK 1000 race tomorrow morning from pole position as well. Race 1 and the Superpole race, the grid determined by your results in the Superpole session. So Sam Lowe's, Andrea Locatelli completing the front row of the grid. Second row for Nicolo Bulliger, Danilo Petrucci and Iker Lecuona. Alvaro Bautista and Andrea Iannone right in play as well. So a lot of Ducatis on those front 3 rows of the grid. No great surprise, you have to say there. Javi Vierge rounding out row 3, and then Jonathan Ray completing the top 10. It's not quite what Donington Park was for Ray, but at least it's a solid effort and keeps him not too far adrift of those major points paying positions.
Yeah, and for Ray, we know he'll get off the line well, and we know that he'll make up places into turn 1 and lap 1, so he still has a good opportunity in this afternoon's race.
Well, it is the first front row start of the season for Andrea Locatelli. His first, in fact, since Portimao 2023, the fifth front row start of his World SBK career.
Andrea Locatelli.
Andrea, first time this season that you've been in the top 3 in Superpole. A fantastic start to the weekend.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's really important to be here. We're working every weekend really hard, and I think this can be a good point. New track, new challenging for everyone. We show that the potential is there. So let's continue like this. We have a race today. I have a good feeling with the bike. We need to make 21 laps, so no mistakes. It's a hard track because we have a lot of chicane, but the bike really doing really well. So keep going like this, we will enjoy today, but I think we can fight again for the podium, and we will enjoy. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
You have to say, I've said it already, but it's quite rare for him to be on the front row of the grid in World SBK. If he had to pick one circuit to do it, he'd probably pick this one because it's going to be easier to defend around this place than a lot of the other tracks we visit.
Yeah, really well. And we saw in that Superpole session how easy it was for everyone to run in a bit hot into places and have those issues. Interestingly, again, there through turn 1, you could see some sparks coming off the Yamaha. We saw that earlier on with Iker Lecuona in FP3 as well. Just shows just how much you're banked over on that side of the tyre through turn 1 as well. But for Locke, good job in the Superpole session. Sets up nicely.
Second place for Sam Lowes. It is his third front row start in the 8 rounds of this 2025 campaign and his first since the Italian round in Cremona.
Sam, another fantastic qualifying session. Second on the grid for race 1. How are you feeling?
You know, I feel good. It was a strange session. The first tyre I didn't feel amazing, and then I went through the first sector a lot faster on the second tyre, but then it was red flag. So no, I don't know if I could have matched Top Rack's time, but it would have been close. So this is a real positive thing for me. You know, we've been fast all weekend, and even then with a used tyre at the end, I managed to just improve a little bit, get second on the grid. But no, it's been a good weekend, enjoying being in Hungary, enjoy racing here, and let's see you this afternoon.
Great job, well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, great confidence there from Sam Lowes that he was saying he felt that, you know, on that lap, there might have been a chance of getting close at least to Toprak Razgatlioglu. When you're anywhere near Toprak, you're doing a good job.
And that's the thing, that's the evolution for all riders. It's that moment of after all the hardship last year, whenever you start the season strong, you then immediately aim for more and more and more. And the target for Sam and Mark VDS has changed over the course of the season so far. Podium in the feature length race, that has to be the goal. That's the next step for them this season.
But it's Toprak Razgatlioglu who is on top for the inaugural visit to Balaton Park, the first Hungarian round in 35 years. Razgatlioglu with his 22nd career pole, his 10th consecutive front row start, and he is the first man to 4 pole positions in this 2025 season.
Toprak pole position by nearly half a second. How confident are you feeling for race 1?
I'm happy. We are improved the bike. We did very good lap time, but if not red flag, I think, coming with 37, a new record. But anyway, you know, I did very good job, and also thanks to the team, improve every session again. And now we are focused the long race because this is more important, and I'm just trying to win the race. Thank you very much.
Great job.
Toprak Razgatlioglu, much as Sam Lowes says he thought he could have gone faster, Toprak was saying he thought that a lap time was available there in the 37s. I said it at the time, didn't I? If he's made a quarter of a second in Sector 1, it's because he's going for a 1:37. But Toprak it is who does set the fastest time of the weekend so far, a 1:38.357, and an incredible benchmark to win Superpole by almost half a second.
Yeah, it really was such a good lap from Toprak, and given that yesterday we saw the bit of frustration for him out there, you can see just the hard work that him and the BMW team have been able to do. And obviously every round and all the time we see it where they make that step-by-step progress, but it's always impressive just to see how they're able to adapt and improve that bike for him.
Well, we're just moments away from this Superpole award ceremony, the 2025 Hungarian round. Good to see, as I made my way in this morning, fair number of people milling around in the paddock, plenty of interest, first opportunity for all of these fans to get a glimpse, and a lot of different languages being spoken as well. It's a fair amount of travellers from Germany, as perhaps you might expect, and then elsewhere in mainland Europe as well.
Yeah, and I think obviously for the Hungarian fans, it's a great opportunity over the next couple of weeks to be able to see plenty of racing. We'll be back here for MotoGP next month as well, and they've done a really good job here at Balaton Park. It's probably surpassed the expectations I think anyone could have come here with.
Yes, brilliant experience to watch some action from the balcony of the hotel as well that overlooks the circuit and turn 17. So credit to those who've put in the work to do the design and the engineering and obviously the construction. This place was completed in 2023. This is our first visit with World SBK. Here's your 3-2-1 then. Andrea Locatelli, 5 career front row starts, his first since Portimao 2023. His previous best this season, 4th place on the grid, again at the Portuguese round. 2nd place goes to Sam Lowes, and that is a 3rd front row start for him this season, but his first since the Italian round. Remember, he was on pole at the Dutch round, was then 2nd on the grid in Cremona, hasn't been higher than 4th place since that was in Misano. So good for him to get back into the top 3. But it's Toprak Razgatlioglu again leading the way. It is back-to-back poles for Toprak. It is 3 poles in the last 4 rounds for Toprak. 22 in his career, 46 front row starts, all told, including 10 in a row. He's heading towards his personal best record of 13. And he's the first rider in 2025 to reach 4 poles. The deadlock between him and Nicolo Bulliger at 3 apiece is now broken. So here's a look at your Superpole results in full for this first Hungarian round at the Balaton Park circuit. Toprak Razgatlioglu on top, a 1 minute 38.357. Half a second almost clear of Sam Lowes and Andrea Locatelli. Nicolo Bulliger 6/10 of a second back from top spot. First time this season he has qualified off the front row. Danilo Petrucci 5th and Iker Lecuona in 6th. He'll be happy about that on the Honda. 2nd time this season he's qualified on row 2. Alvaro Bautista P7, that's his best qualifying since the Italian round when he was 4th. It'll be the 3rd row of the grid for him this time around, ahead of Andrea Iannone. Important return to form after qualifying only 14th last time out for him. And Xavi Vierque up in P9 despite a spill earlier on in the session.